Billy Strings, as I live and breathe.
Yeah, Dave, how's it going?
It's awesome. How are you?
Good, man. Just hanging out and spending time doing nothing.
Oh, looks like you've been working on your car.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of stuff here and there, tinkering around, but taking advantage of all this time off and soaking up it and being lazy.
Me too, brother.
Yeah. How you hanging out there, man?
Well, I'm really loath to say this because after what are we on week 6 of this now? A lot of people are losing their shit and going crazy, which isn't to say that I don't experience my bouts of cabin fever, but I gotta tell you, I really like it. I, this is kind of, I mean, I've been trying to take some time off, and just I live in West Sonoma County, and I could never do it. There's always something I really, really want to do musically, whether it's like gigging with Panic or some production work or playing in the studio or whatever. And so it was always like, after this project's over, I'll take some time at home. Well,
Yeah.
now I'm doing it, and I kind of like it. I hate to say it.
Oh, no shame, dude. I'm feeling the same way. I've been just hanging out at home and tinkering on the car here and there, dicking around on my skateboard, or playing a little bit of guitar and banjo and stuff here and there. But also just watching a lot of movies and playing video games and like just doing, like yeah, I don't know, not really doing anything.
How about cooking? Are you cooking?
Allie is the cook, and so I am the lab rat.
Right, right.
Yes, and it
Yeah, Andrea's been my guinea piglet too.
nice. Yeah, it's great, man. It's been she's been doing some great stuff. Just tonight, she made these little pierogies,
Oh,
and
I love those.
yeah, and she did baked ziti a couple times during this quarantine, and what else has she done? All sorts of little stir fries and curries and great stuff. I was talking to Jerry Douglas about this earlier, and it's great being somewhere and thinking like, well, what are we gonna eat, and not like looking at a menu.
Yeah, when I first got back from the last session down in LA, I scanned the pantry because things were really weird. The Bay Area counties were some of the first to lock it down, and I drove up from LA that day, and then I got home and Sonoma locked down. And so I'm like, well, let's see what we got, and I realized there's like a bunch of stuff that I was planning on Christmas here. So I always start buying all the stuff to have a Southern style Christmas on the West Coast because my mom would come, but she stayed in Richmond, Virginia, and we flew out there. So I had all this like pantry staple stuff for making comfort food already in the pantry, and I was just like, wow, well, I could make bread, and I can bake stuff, and there's like meat in the freezer that I didn't get around to, and it's like this is so I was like breaking out the family cookbook and you know making macaroni and cheese and lasagna and all kinds of stuff.
Oh man, the elevated Mac. That's where it's at right now.
That's right. That's right.
Um, I was introduced to little chicken sausages when I was doing these sessions with Bela. A lot of times we would take a break and just cook up some little chicken sausages real quick. So I mentioned that to Allie, and so then we added that to our mac and cheese, and it's the shit.
Oh, that sounds really, yeah, that's good. I mean, well, I'm not going to tell you what my cousin Larry did today, but I am going to tell you. He wanted to have some chicken tikka marsala. I guess he had the fixings for it, but he
Mhm.
didn't have any chicken. And this is disgusting, but he said it was tasty. Was he did have a pack of Hebrew National hot dogs, and it's like, oh, okay, so Indian food meets Hebrew National, who answers to a higher authority, and it's just like the repercussions of this meal could go far and wide. But he said it was okay.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I do my wagyu, is in the microwave with ketchup and.
That's right. Yeah, just douse it in ketchup and maybe some horseradish. That wagyu, it's got a lot of fat in it. No flavor.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you've been playing any music around the house or listening to anything or anything in particular lately doing it for you?
Yes, I mean, I haven't really been playing much because just taking a break and all my good axes, I took them down to the studio and had them worked on for the last session for the Neil Casal record. And, we were supposed to be kind of dead center right now here towards the middle end of April in the third and final big window of recording that record. I was going to be playing a lot of bass, so I left them thinking, this stuff will all blow over by the end of April. So all my good basses are down there. I mean, I've got an acoustic, guitar Roan type bass that I shed on, but I really haven't. It's the vinyl that's been saving my butt.
Yeah.
And I've made Instagram friends with the guy that is the social media guy for the Stax Museum in Memphis.
Oh.
And I put up some. I think I was listening to Booker T or something, and put up a little story about it. And he started direct messaging me all these, like, hey, have you heard this Marquise record, or have you heard this weird one-off record? And I guess the house bands would be idle days in the studio. House band is on, so it's like throw a reel on and let's do a whacked out psychedelic 10-minute version of Cloud Nine. And so
Yeah.
he turned me on to some records which I got online and ordered, and those came in a few days ago. And so I've just been kind of pretending I'm in Memphis, Tennessee through the vinyl. And then that and some of the cats from the Southern California scene that are hip right now, Pacific Rains, Curation Records sent me a nice bundle with their new vinyl, which our buddy Dan Horn produced.
Nice.
And also the Mapache record, who our buddy Dan Horn also produced. And those guys it's great. It's like sunny Southern California music. There's nothing quarantini about it.
Well, that's what we need right now.
What about you? What you been grooving on?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, I'm looking at my thing. I got my little record player here. It looks like the last thing I was listening to was the David Grisman Quintet, and
Nice.
yeah, I inherited a lot of records from my mom and dad. They gave me about, you know, a half of their collection, or maybe even three quarters of it. But so I got a bunch of great stuff, and a lot of it is Doc and Bill Monroe and Norman Blake and Mac Wiseman, Jimmy Martin, Larry Sparks, and stuff like that. Old bluegrass records that they belonged to my grandmother, and then she gave them to my dad, and then he gave them to me. So some of these old records that I have, they say Doreen Barber on them, which was my grandma's name, in just like ink pen, like they say Doreen on them.
Right.
And so
that's
yeah,
that's like heirloom stuff, and also probably some pretty valuable vinyl, I would imagine.
there's some good stuff in there, and along with all that good bluegrass and country stuff, there's a lot of good Beatles, Zeppelin, Sabbath, some Hendrix stuff, even some like cool bootleg Hendrix stuff.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah. So these are all the shit that my dad would play for me when I was little. He would like sit me down and be like, "Okay, man, this is Black Sabbath," and I was like 7 years old and shit, and Johnny Winter and King Crimson and all that stuff, man. I got some good ones here.
That stuff is life saving. I was just reading an article about how a lot of the newer pop and hip hop acts, apparently during this quarantine, like the the numbers from the streaming services, and people are kind of leaning on the classic rock
Oh, that's
and the
awesome.
older music. I don't know what's to be drawn from that or inferred or anything, but I get it. I mean,
Oh
I don't
man.
necessarily want to be challenged right now. I want to be comforted.
Yeah. Yeah, and this stuff just sounds so good. If you put on like there's this bluegrass album band stuff with Tony Rice and Bobby Hicks and Doyle Lawson and that stuff, man. It just, it was recorded in the 70s straight to tape, and it's just such good sounds. And if you listen to that stuff on Spotify or something, it's just not the same.
No, it's totally not. It's MP3s are. It's like looking at a picture of a picture. It's not. It doesn't move air. It
It's not.
and there's a
It's not.
purity to the recording process in those days, especially with like the bluegrass. I mean, they're not doing overdubs.
Yeah.
They're they're nailing full takes, and someone's got the room mic just right, and it would sound. It's probably not too far off from the way it sounded if you were sitting cross-legged in the middle of all those guys recording.
Yeah.
I was listening to this Kenny Dorham record a few years ago called Afro-Cuban, a jazz record from the late '50s, and my wife was having an interior designer come over, and they were talking about curtains or some shit, and her and the designer came walking in, and I was kind of cranking it in the room, and the interior designer she stopped and she looked kind of all around her, and she just finally goes, "Why does this music sound so good?" And I was kind of like, "Yeah, because you can feel it. That's
Yeah.
why." And you can't feel an MP3. It doesn't matter what kind of headphones or setup you've got. I mean, there's just something about the sound of the way that needle rides and then
Yeah.
slips into the groove, and air coming out of speakers with uh, mm, I love it. It's like a heavy blanket.
Yeah. You can't roll a joint on an MP3 either. It just doesn't
No,
work.
you cannot. That is a brilliant observation, and I'm going to quote you on that. I promise I won't. I won't lay claim to that one myself. That's a good one.
I don't know where I heard that one anyhow. I think maybe Kyle Tuttle. Oh man. But yeah, it's been surprisingly well here. I know you and a lot of us have been traveling for years and years and years, and this is probably the longest I've been at home in the last 10 years or something, and it just feels I'm taking advantage of it, I guess, and I'm trying not to feel guilty about like not being productive during this time, or I haven't written anything, which I always kick my own ass about that, but I'm I don't know. I'll get on it real soon here. Like I know it's almost like you can feel it coming. It's like I don't know. Even like little things like when I stopped smoking cigarettes or something like that. It was like, okay, I'm gonna quit smoking soon. I know it. And like maybe a couple weeks later or something, you just end up doing it. That's how I feel about maybe this new batch of tunes that I'm kind of waiting to arrive.
I think that makes perfect sense. And if you're anything like me, um, which hopefully most people aren't, but I know there are some people that like even when Panic took a year off, which we've done twice over the last 30 some years. The first time we did it, I was more productive than I had ever been in my life. I started a side band that made a record and did 3 tours around the world. I hooked up with Jay Maskus and a band called The Fog and toured around the country. I made a record with some friends of mine from Athens. And I think Widespread Panic put out like 4 live records that, I at least had to put my ears on and say, sounds good to me. I was like, by the end of that year off, I look back, I'm like, geez, I've done more that year than I've ever done. And this the thing that I found that's always hard for me, and it probably explains that year off that wasn't a year off, is it's hard to like when you've been out on a boat or something for a while, or on the bus for 6 weeks, and you finally come home, and it's like you step off the boat, and it's like my balance is all screwed up, and you get off the bus and try to sleep in your bed without the road rolling underneath of you, and you just toss and turn, and there's like a psychological thing too. It's
Yeah.
like I call it getting off the carousel. It's like I've been at the amusement park all day. I've been on the roller coasters and the carousels, and there's a lot of noise and things are going
Yeah, you're
fast, and
still stimulated in a way. You still got to come down from that high, man.
yeah, and it's hard. And I think
Takes a
the
while.
pace, it takes a while, and it also takes realizing that that's what's going on. I think a lot of people In fact, I was talking to Andy Frasco about this at the beginning of the quarantine, and he's a fucking hustler. That guy. He works his ass off, and he's
Yeah.
constantly touring and constantly writing and doing his podcast, and he's like, man, I'm like trapped in my apartment in Denver. I don't know what to do, and I said, well, here's what I learned. I would come home from a long tour, and I'd be sitting in this easy chair without a care in the world, having worked my butt off, done good work. And around 7 o'clock, I'm in the easy chair about to watch a Seinfeld rerun or something. And all of a sudden, I'm filled with anxiety,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
man.
filled with anxiety. And then finally, it was like a light bulb, like a finger snapping. It's like, bam, this is. This is muscle memory of me putting on my game face for the show.
Right.
It's the exact same time frame. About 7 o'clock, 7:30, that
Yeah.
feeling of I'm about to go on, and hope it's a good show, and I hope I remember how to play these songs, and so then I realized, oh, well, I don't need to do a bunch of drugs or something to calm this anxiety. It's like I know what it is now. I'll just, I'll take a walk or I'll burn this nervous energy off because I don't have 3 hours to try and entertain people. I have 3 hours to watch as much TV as I can stomach. So once I made that realization, things were better when I wasn't on the road, and I dropped that on Frasco, and he's like, "Holy cow, that makes a whole lot of sense." But then the next thing you know, he's got a 2-hour Thursday show, and his podcast continues, and he's putting the final touches on a documentary, and they dropped their new record last week. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're young.
Mm.
I get it. So you
Yeah.
seem to have a good handle on it, the like embracing the laziness, you
Yeah.
know?
What I do is like it's in the back of my head. I'm like, hey man, you should be working on something. You haven't done anything today. You haven't played your guitar yet today. What are you doing, bud? You just sitting here kicking rocks or what? And then the other guy on the other shoulder is going, man, you've been on the road for months. Just fucking chill, dude. Smoke a bowl, take a nap, play some video games, do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to do anything, man. Just relax. you know, and so I'm like back and forth. But basically, what I've come to is that I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna. I'm almost fully restored. I feel like like I feel so. Man, my sleep schedule is like right on. I wake up and go to sleep like around the same time. I'm like eating good and like it's just so strange, so much different than being on the road and you don't get to choose when you go to bed or when you get up. It's kind of just the situation decides that for you.
That's right. Now you're lucky in that respect. I'm having a hard time sleeping.
Oh man, that sucks.
I can't. Usually, I'm so tired, or it's like 14, 16-hour day in the studio. It's enough time to go back and maybe have a drink, um, maybe eat some leftovers or something, and wind down and go to sleep. Wake up, shower, breakfast, back to the studio. Or, the touring is highly itinerized, as you know, and everything centers around sound check, whatnot. Um, but here, it's like I caught up on my sleep. The exhaustion, I pissed that away a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and like I should be sleeping regularly. I mean, we've Andrea and I have discussed how good it is to have certain regular things like the 8 o'clock howl out here in West Sonoma. Everyone just steps outside and howls for a minute, and you can hear them. We can't see any of our neighbors; they're way away, and but you can hear them. And so there's like a little pinpoint of regularity. And after that, we have dinner. And it's like I should be sleeping. I'll sleep. I'll go to sleep around 11 or midnight. Then I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I can't go back to sleep.
Mm.
So, and then it's like cat naps if it's starting to get hot during the day here. Um,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, this sucks. I can't even, I feel like one of my dogs, look at my dog, Marvin, and he's laying on the floor like a fried egg. I'm like,
Yeah.
get in the bed and take a nap. And I know that isn't helping, but all the ways that I usually do a forced reset on the sleep thing, they're not working.
Mm.
But I don't know that it really matters. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
it's
'cause
not like I have to be on point at any time. I don't even have to be on point talking to you.
yeah, no, not at all. I mean, it's like, so you're up at 4 in the morning. I mean, kind of. I mean, I've been there for sure. Lately, it's been. I don't know what it is. I'm so grateful for it too, but I've been sleeping. And man, I'm somebody that usually, I mean, for maybe it's just been the last like 6 months or a year that I feel like I've been sleeping better. Usually, my whole life it's been like you were saying. I go to sleep and I'll fall asleep, but then 3:30 comes around and I wake up and then I'm next thing I know it's 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm just pissed because I'm still awake and it's like what the fuck like. This bus is gonna be rolling in 20 minutes, and I haven't slept a wink, and like this sucks, you know. But I don't know. I'm getting lucky for some reason. It's been just like this pretty much the same time, going to bed around midnight or something, wake up at like 8 or 9, and I don't even actually get out of bed till like 11.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
Have you noticed
smoke about three
birds?
or four. Oh man, yeah, the birds they're like living it up, man.
They're great. My wife and I had been we've mentioned it a couple times over the last few years that uh, the bird noise and population seems to have dwindled around here. And, um, there are a lot of people that have various, man's intrusion and Fukushima and pollution
Oh
and
yeah,
radiation and the sun and blah, blah, blah. But we noticed it. And then a couple weeks ago, it was just like, wow, they are back. And, it is springtime and whatnot. But I woke up one morning around 5 and just sat out on the deck and watched the sun come up. And they were going crazy. And it was so funny. I'm thinking, this used to be the signal for me to go to bed
yeah,
when
no
the morning
shit.
birds are making noise. And now I'm like, I was so excited. And so I downloaded this bird identification thing called Merlin. It's an app for the iPhone. And I swear, I think I'm starting to like understand what do they call themselves? Ornithologists, people who study birds.
Oh yeah, man.
So I'm like, because there's so many. There's hummingbirds and these blue jays with the mohawk. They're like the punk rock birds. They're jerks.
Yeah,
They hang
they're
out on
they're
the
total
corner.
assholes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, birds of prey and owls and all kinds
And
of
squirrels and
stuff.
shit too are a whole part of that whole scene, man. Squirrels are fucking nuts. Like,
They are. They
dude.
they abuse my dogs from the tops of these tall trees out here. I can hear them chattering, and the dog's just going, roar, 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 and the squirrels are up there going, you stupid fucking dog, throwing
Yeah.
acorns at him or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, man.
It's like a cartoon out here, at least from my point of view.
Uh yeah, that's probably nice to sit out there at 5 o'clock in the morning and to see all that and to hear all that and kind of just ponder and think. Man, uh I love something about the early morning is kind of the grass is wet and the birds are just waking up, and it's like that something is great in those hours.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And to like not have to like put on a suit and tie and
Oh
get in your
yeah.
car and commute through traffic to work in a neon lit cubicle with people and that are maybe not your kind of people at all. It's, it fills me with gratitude because the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have to go inside and take a nap. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the worst that's gonna happen, then shit. That's like actually the best possible possibility, you know?
Exactly. Well, that's the not sleeping thing. It's like I realize, dreams, I always felt like dreams are your brain's way of defragging itself if it were a hard drive. Like it just sort of spits out random garbage as images and things, dreams. And then, like when I have had dreams, really interesting dreams or just dreams at all, I wake up and I feel sharp as a tack in my brain. But
Yeah.
if I don't sleep in chunks that are long enough to have dreams, then I feel like there's been sandpaper taken to my brain or something. It's no good. But I always, if I manage to go back to bed, I will have some outrageous dreams,
Yeah.
and I might wake my wife up laughing in my sleep or screaming. It could even be a nightmare. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's like the brain is like getting rid of a bunch of stuff that's pointless, and it just sort of spews it out as random images. And our brains want to connect dots, so it tries to make sense out of these weird random images, and therefore there might be a plot to a dream that I have that's weird. But I wake up and I'm just like, my wife's like, "Oh, you're all feisty this morning," and I'm like, "I had dreams."
Yeah, I have some crazy dreams too, man. And like, dreams are one of the things that have actually freaked me out before, like on some Matrix, Inception kind of fucking what the hell just happened kind of shit. Because I have like seen things in my dreams that happened after my dreams, like, and I also like developed a safe place in my dreams that I've visited multiple times in different dreams when shit hits the fan. It's a really strange thing that happened. Like, um that whole thing was like, I had a couple different dreams. One was where I was just like walking with my brother or something, and all of a sudden, like, there were bombs dropping and everybody was killing each other, and it was like, I know where we need to go. And actually, the first one was I was at a party, and this was when I was a minor. So back then, I would be running from the police all the time because I'd be drunk
Right.
drunk at a party, and the cops would come. So I was having dreams about that, and in my dream, I was at this big party, and it was at this old Victorian house, and there's like a willow tree in the front yard, and the cops came, so we all had to run, and everybody ran to the cornfields, and my brother and I, instead, we ran inside to the big old farmhouse, and we ran downstairs into the basement, way down into the cellar, and there's this long corridor hallway that goes so far back, and we just kept running, going farther and farther and farther back into this deep, dark basement, to the point where it's like we're so far back here that no cops are going to come all the way back here looking for us. We're safe. And then a couple months later, I had a dream that it was violent with bombs and war and stuff, and somehow I was like at my high school, and then I went through a closet. Next thing you know, I'm in the basement. I'm like, go, 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 all the way to the back, and it's like, okay, all of a sudden I'm in the basement of this old farmhouse again. And then, the same place, the same house, the same tree, the same basement. 3 times I visited in my dreams when stuff was getting really scary. It's like, I know where to go.
That's amazing. That's quite a lucky turn.
Really strange, man. Like, but also like, wow, I kind of, it's almost like I invented this little cubby I can hide in within my, dreamscape that like, it saves me from whatever kind of demise, peril that was certainly ahead. Um,
It's funny because in like dream psychology, they say that houses in your dreams are how you see yourself. They like represent your life or your image of yourself. And so if you take that into the lens of what you're talking about, then it's like you're telling yourself that you're you're the safe place.
yeah, man. That's a whole nother trip because I feel like it always comes back to you. We're all a part of this bigger thing, We're all a link in a chain, and you got to look out for yourself. You got to take care of yourself, and you're the only one who can decide what kind of person you're going to be. So it is up to you, you
That's
know.
right. This is the we make our own reality, but in our sleep and our dreams, that's that's a place to try things. I've always heard that dreams and nightmares, especially, are your subconscious's way of preparing you for anything that could happen.
Hmm.
So you have these horribly frightening dreams that, like, they could happen. Sure, cops can come. That happens. I mean, bombs, violence, being terrorized. That happens all the time to people. It could happen to any of us. And the fact that you've got a place to retreat that represents yourself just supports what you just said. You're making your own reality, and you're the one that's ultimately in control of not only the actions that you perpetrate, but also the thoughts, and therefore the reality, your
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah. Another, you know, since we just kind of mentioned like terror, terror within dreams, another thing that has freaked me out is that I've had sort of premonitions in my dreams before, sometimes about lighter hearted stuff like, I had a premonition that I would be in a recording session with Chris Thiele working on somebody else's record, and me and him would just be on the session. And that like came true when Bela both had us on a thing. And when I was in the studio, it's like, wait a minute, like I had a dream about this. Like I remember having this dream that this happened. And that was just weird. But the weirdest one of all that really freaked me out and still sort of like scares me in a way was I had this dream uh, that me and Allie and a couple of our friends were like in this big city, and we were in this like skyscraper sort of building on the second floor. So we could see down to the sidewalk and the intersection and stuff where cars were going and people were walking on the sidewalk through the glass. And there's just dudes with huge machine guns just sawing innocent people down. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so we're trying to hide, and I can see these guys like literally blowing people apart for no fucking reason. And like, it was just insane. I mean, these guys were just killing everybody that they saw for no fucking reason, and it was nuts. And I woke up and I told Allie about my dream. It was holy shit, this was fucking nuts. We were hiding, and these people were coming after us with guns, and they were killing everybody for no reason. And she's like, wow, that sounds crazy. And then whatever, we went about our day. Later on that night was when there was the terrorist attack at that concert in France.
Oh man, the Bataclan.
Yeah, at the Eagles of Death Metal concert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that fucking hit me all sorts of weird, dude. Like I was just like, when I started reading the news about it, like, seeing videos, and like that was really similar to what I saw in my dreams and shit. And it's like, there's no fucking way I saw this happening, 12 hours before it fucking happened. Like, how can you explain that, Like, I woke up that morning and told Allie about my dream about a terrorist attack, and some hours later we're reading it on the news that, this thing actually happened. It's like, what the fuck?
It's we are all linked, like you said earlier. Um, but I think there's just so much input and so many things that take us outside of ourselves that we've lost that ability to sort of have this universal subconscious that we can tap into. But maybe when you're sleeping, you're more open, and there's like psychic chatter, like they talk about terrorist chatter, in the days since 9/11, and they monitor everything, and AIs control the conversations and things. And there's like these waves, and psychic waves of somebody's planning something violent, and it gets put out there, and maybe, we're tapped into this stuff, and maybe you're a little more tapped into it. Musicians are naturally empathetic. They have to be to want to play music, to play music, and especially to play music with other people. I mean, it's like we get such a charge from an excitable audience. We get such a charge from being involved in a combination of musicians, and like having that same pop. You know what I'm talking about. When a group of
Yeah.
people are playing together and it just pops. It's just like bam. It's that's why people will travel over hill and dale to go see a concert. And it's why we put ourselves through the shit we put ourselves through just being on the road, because those moments when that happens are worth everything. But I think it's like psychic energy, all these forms of psychic energy out there. And maybe you picked up on some violent planning psychic energy. I mean, it's a boiling
Yeah,
out there.
it's not like I was. I mean, I thought about it a lot. It's like I wasn't like watching a lot of like movies like that or anything. I wasn't like watching the news, or there wasn't anything that necessarily sparked it either. like a news article or anything like that. It was just sort of out of the blue, and man, it was just really strange. And so, yeah, I mean, that kind of shit has happened. Like, my dreams have blown my mind before, and it's just some whether it's something like that, some kind of coincidence, with like the actual uh, awake world, or whether it's just like, holy shit, how did I come up with that, or wow, I'm fucking weird.
Well, you're not fucking weird, but you are, but you're not. I
But I
mean,
am.
there's no way to measure this stuff, you know. Maybe someday there will be, to like quantifiably place it in terms that scientifically make sense. But a couple hundred years ago, if someone had said, "I've got this machine that will allow me to see the bones through your skin. I'm going to call it an X-ray."
Yeah.
People would have been, "You're crazy,
Yeah, you're
man."
fucking high, man.
Yeah. So, and the rate at which technology evolves in our lifetimes is, I mean, it was only 200 years ago that, you know, coal smoke from the industrial age filled the air. And now they had to turn off two artificial intelligent machines that began to talk to each other in a language that the computer programmers couldn't understand. So they literally like got, what the fuck? They're like turned into evil twins and made up their own language, and they're excluding us. So they pulled the plug. That really happened.
That's insane, man.
This shit happens fast. The Matrix, the Terminator. I mean, those ideas are floating around out there. Who knows? Nothing's gonna surprise me at this point. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, occasionally I see these videos of like Boston Engineering or Boston Dynamics or something where they're making
Yes.
these fucking insane robots, and it's just like, dude, stop doing that.
Yeah, I know, because it's like, Austin Powers, what is it, Dr. Evil talking about sharks with fucking lasers. Like looking at those Boston, it's out of MIT or someplace like that. You're talking about that fucking
Yeah, and
dog
there's
looking
one
thing
there's one that's like a dude that can do like backflips and shit and somersaults and like run at you, and like, this thing's agile like a fucking football player, and it's a
yeah, and it's not gonna
huge
stop.
yeah, literally, like, I don't know, that's kind of terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's like scientists mess with this stuff, and it's like they're so narrowly focused on like this goal of achieving this thing. It's like they never stop to think about, um, what happens if this thing turns on me. I mean, people have been writing. That's what the whole Frankenstein monster. That's what that trope is about.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like create this thing that you can't control,
Yeah, man.
and
I mean,
and
Dr.
it'll turn on you.
Frankenstein, he didn't care that it was he was had an evil abnormal brain and was a killer. He's like, I made this thing live. It's like, it's beautiful. He's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
alive.
the temptation to be God is far greater than the temptation to consider whether what you're creating is going to do good or evil.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that shit, what they're building over there, but like, hopefully they're just like remote control car kind of situations, and they're not like letting these things learn.
Yeah, trying to bring me my weed and my food. It'll be fine. I don't
Yeah.
want it to stick a
Well, there's
thermometer up
the
my ass.
yeah, the lady, the Jetsons, man, the little robot gal.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, it's not like these are new ideas. I used to read that old science fiction, Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, and Arthur C. Clarke, and all the like robot stuff. Um, they saw it coming. But
Yeah.
geez, do they have to? Why does there always have to be a military use for these things? Like I said, just have it bring me pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of seems like what a lot of people think is most important is how big your weapons are, or aka your dick.
Exactly. I mean, we're apes. We're apes
Yeah.
trying to evolve
Seems like
beyond.
maybe if we were able to like spend as much money on, instead of spending it all on our military and shit, man, uh, kind of the shit that's going on right now. Like we need health care. We need like aid, and we
Yes.
need um, yeah. It just doesn't seem like sometimes it's that our heads in the right spot.
Yeah, it's weird. The insurance companies need to be reined in because, like, I call my doctor and I say, "Hey, I got some back pain," and he's like, "Oh, here, I'll give you this and some muscle relaxers," and then I get this automated phone call that says, the insurance company needs to contact your doctor for advisement. This may take a few days." I'm like, "Well, I called him up and he phoned it in because I need it now." It's like, does an insurance company know better than my doctor?
Yeah.
He's the same guy who I've been seeing for 10 years and knows exactly what's going on with me up and down. Some AI at an insurance company goes into this automated system for CVS. Fuck that. And then I call and I'm like, "Look, I need this now. Is there any way to expedite this?" And she goes, "Well, you could just pay for it yourself." I'm like, "Well, how much is that going to be?"
Yeah.
And she's like, $20. I'm like, "You charge me $100 for blood glucose test strips. That's something that helps me keep a very fatal, very common problem, that's expensive to the healthcare system in this country down. You charge me that much for this, but you'll give me painkillers and muscle relaxers off the plan for $20.
Oh man.
There's a problem here."
Yeah. Huge problem. I mean, um, I have sort of been on this mental health journey for the last couple of years, and I'm doing much better than I was. I mean, there was a minute there where I was really struggling with anxiety and some depression and just kind of feeling weird as hell, man. I was strung out from being on the road and just tired. And anyways, I've been seeing a therapist for just over a year, and got a lot of shit sorted out and all of that. And I was taking sometimes I'd take a little chunk of Xanax or something if I was having a real bad panic attack or something, or and I also was put on sort of an antidepressant sort of thing, which really has helped and has been great. But that is so fucking expensive, and they'll give me the Xanax for, I mean, like it was like fucking $15 or something.
Yeah,
And
see,
it's like that's the shit I'm gonna get hooked on, and like like it's just so weird. And like the stuff that's like that I need and like that is actually really helpful for me, it's like unbelievably expensive. I'm saying if I don't go through like the website and get the coupons and all this shit, I'm saying literally 300, $400 per script, which is for a
Jesus.
30-day prescription.
Yeah, that doesn't make any fucking sense. I
And
mean,
that's for something that like I mean I've been taking it because it really helped me sort my shit out, and I mean shit, the doctor said it would, and I trusted him, and I took it, and it really has helped a bunch, but holy fuck if it ain't expensive, and it's like what can I do to to get this without being totally raped.
you can't because I don't think they want people to easily, they don't want masses to think for themselves. They don't want them to be straightened out so they can critically think and make decisions that are best for themselves. They want them to just be sort of muted, you know, by things like the Xanax or opiates or whatever. I mean, I remember the pain management clinics when those things just started popping up like dandelions everywhere at the end of the 90s. And I was trying to get sober, and it was everywhere. You got Rush Limbaugh screaming about hillbilly heroin, and now we're seeing the other end of it, this like incredible federally mandated back, uh, you know, um, knee jerk reaction to all the like OxyContin script writing. The Sackler family, the Purdue Pharmaceuticals, they made billions and billions of dollars, and they gave kickbacks to doctors and made it easy, and had like slanted research done to say that it wasn't addictive. And then we wound up with a generation of people that are hooked on, hillbilly heroin. And,
Yeah.
that family's been sued, the Sackler family, that everybody hates them. But now it's like, it's so hard to get anything that is a pain reliever when you fucking need it.
Yeah.
It's like, uh, And I've been through, far into the grist mill and come out the other side to where if I call my doctor up and I say, I need something to help me get over this, he knows everything about me, and he'll write me what he thinks is proper. And then, I have to prove myself to some faithless corporation. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
But yeah, it's just such an insult. I mean, for them to charge so much for things that help us heal, and then so little for things that just put us on the sofa and mute us down. That in and of itself is very telling right
Yeah,
now.
something's cockeyed somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's greed. It's greed.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a big problem in general with our kind. Is just I don't know if we could get past that. Maybe I think it'd be a little bit better. But during these times, you do see. I mean, you always see the light. There's not darkness without it. Um, you know, and you see like right now, man. Like what I'm doing is just going through my contacts and calling a bunch of people and checking in and saying what's up and I want to hear how you've been and stuff like that. Man, I recommend you do it. Go through your contacts, call everyone who you haven't talked to in a while and just check in on them. Somebody who you haven't seen in a couple years or something, and just say, hey man, how you been? And finally check in and use this time to do that.
I think it's a great plan. And I'm gonna take you up on that. Um, but maintaining the contact when you just don't know how isolated someone is, and you can text them and go, "You hanging in there?" and you get something funny back. Very few people are going to be like, "No, actually, I'm having a rough time. Can I call you?" Most people are like, "Yeah, man, I'm hanging in there." Okay, cool. See you. Text you next week. And you're right. It's important to go a little deep with the people you care about, because it's really easy in the busy world to um, just stay in text, as it were, and to know that people in your orbit are out there orbiting like good little planets. But sometimes you got to go do a little terraforming.
Yeah.
And, but just, I tell you, everyone that I have talked to, everyone, no matter whether they love this lockdown thing or hate it, has had a universally positive thing to say about it. That it has affected them in a positive way, and that they've become more self-aware or realized that they needed to slow down. I didn't know how hard I was burning the candle at both ends. They didn't know until this. I call it an enforced staycation. Um, and personally, for myself, it's a soft retirement. So, um, yeah, I mean, just to hear those birds, it really gives me pause, and I think pause is the key word. It's like the skies are clear. I don't hear planes overhead. The road that we live off of is really windy and goes out to the coast, and so I'm always hearing Harleys. They come around the curve that sort of wraps around our property, and they'll gun it when they get to the end of it because it's like a straight hill. And so yeah, it's thrilling, but I'm not hearing that. That's not like cutting into the late afternoon and trucks with their Jake brakes. I can hear the 101 when it's really quiet, but I'm not hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty nice. A lot of people can't stand silence.
Yeah.
Um, but I was one of them. There's always music playing, or I got to have a fan going. There's got to be white noise. Nothing's more comforting than the sound of the bus wheels on the highway rolling.
Yeah.
But
Do your
good.
ears ring at all from being on the loud stage for so long?
You mean like tinnitus,
Yeah.
that kind of thing? Um, you know, not as bad as it probably should. I think I've gotten really lucky with that.
Yeah. I
How about
mean,
you?
yeah. I mean, sometimes they do. if it's silent or and sometimes worse than others. Sometimes I feel like maybe I just focus on it and I can just like make it seem louder than it is. But yeah, sometimes I do have that little ringing in my ears, and most of the time I'm not even playing on a I mean, we just use in-ear monitors, but I seem to like to have it a little loud.
Yeah, and just the constant input of sound beyond like the trees rustling in the wind or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. You'll get used to it, just like anything. And you wind up turning up, and like I'm in a loud rock and roll band. When I was playing with Jay Mascis, that shit was fucking loud. But I wouldn't wear earplugs. I hate earplugs, and I've never been a fan of in-ear monitors. Um,
Yeah.
Even when like Panic was playing acoustic and you joined us, I wasn't using anything. I didn't have a monitor wedge. I mean, I had one tiny one, but it was just my vocal because it's weird to like the way the display is at the Ryman, the way the monitors or the mains are hung.
So when you play
There's
with Panic, you just use your bass amp as your rig? Or do you?
well the acoustic thing is what I was talking
Okay,
about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean I got loud front wedges,
yeah,
when we're electric, but the acoustic thing, no in-ear monitors. Everybody else is using them, but I can usually hear it just great out of the PA. If I need to sing lead, which maybe happens once every 2 nights,
yeah.
um, I'll get a little something of my voice closer to me
Yeah, and especially
because
at
it
the
can kind of
Ryman,
throw
man, you
me.
can hear out front, and that feels so good to be able to hear that.
Hmm. That's right,
Yeah,
and
that was so
that's
fun.
that was great. We're gonna have to do that again, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it was a good day, man. I got a couple friends from way up in the UP, Michigan. Good folks, man. My buddy Bosley Adams and his girl Taylor and my friend Kevin Tama and we all they all came down from Michigan to go to you guys' shows, and then so beforehand we I went and picked him up and we drove around town in my Chevelle and went and grabbed some burgers and shit, and then like it was wild because I like grew up with these dudes partying and stuff, and they're huge fans, they're huge spread heads, and so then, I got to drive them around a little bit, and then like later on, I sat in with them, and then just went from like being on stage to like right back out in the audience, just like kicking it with them, and they're just like, "What the fuck?" It was, it was a awesome day.
It was a great time. Those were my favorite acoustic shows we've ever done because we did it right. We rehearsed right, and we had fun with it. We didn't get too uptight.
Oh
We
man,
really embraced like
it
the
was
difference.
incredible to be out front and to be a part of the audience for that, and I came for all of it, for all 3 nights, or was it 3 or 4?
I think it was three.
Yeah, I came. I played with you guys one night, but I ended, like the next night, I was like, I'm coming back, because I
It was
just
great.
kept my laminate.
Yeah, that's what it's for. Shit, you don't even need one, man.
Probably not at the Ryman, man. They're getting ready to know me back there. When I come in the back door, the security gal there, hey Billy.
That's great. That's when you know you've truly made it.
Well, it's like I was thinking about that, because I sat in with you there, and then I went down and played with Tyler, and I sat in with Mavis Staples, and I sat in with somebody else. I can't remember, but it was like over the last like year or so, or couple years, I've like keep like ended up sitting in with people there a bunch, and it's like, man, is the Ryman really gonna be the joint that I just go jam with people at, like during the week?
I can't think of a better place. Can you?
Not really. And it's great because it's so close to my house, and I can just like grab a guitar, run down there, go up the back alley, knock on the door, slip in, do a little sit in, and then go right back home. And I've done that a couple times where it's like I'm back in my own bed, watching movies or something by 10 o'clock or whatever.
That's fantastic. See, that's the dream. I say no to any gigs. pickup gigs, except for ones that are like almost even Mill Valley's too far to go down to the Sweetwater and play with someone. But Phil's place, Terrapin Crossroads,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
my conditions are: can I carry my own rig, and can I get in my car after the gig and be home in less than an hour? And the answer is yes, if it's those two places. And so
Totally.
that's it. But I ain't crossing that bridge, man. I ain't going parking in the city and trying to tote no rig into no club. It's going to have to be a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, that's there's some good little bluegrass jams that happen here in Nashville too. There's the American Legion thing like on Wednesday nights, I think. Well, there's like honky tonk nights when there's a great band, Billy Contreras, and his group a lot of times is down there playing, and they're just killing it, man. I don't know if you know him, Billy Contreras. He is a fiddle player here in Nashville. He's fucking insane, man. You got to check out some videos of him playing. I'll send you a couple cool videos or something. He plays a lot with Kenny Vaughn. Do you know Kenny?
Oh, I love Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Kenny. I've done a bunch of work in Nashville lately, and I've wound up hiring some of those old cats. And that was the whole Tim Bloom record was, let's find some folks that used to be the top call guys, but just are getting looked over. And so, hired Gene Chrisman and Dave Rowe and Kenny Vaughn, and had some of these other cats come in. And, Dan Auerbach knows that's why he employs Dave and Gene as part of the Easy Eye sound system cats. And it's pretty amazing what those folks can do, and to get to know them. And they got great stories, and they're just seasoned professionals, and they understand that it ain't about just coming in and playing the right part. It ain't about chops. It's about keeping the session elevated. So they have great sense of humor, and if there's an artist in there that is scared or anxiety ridden, they'll just kick that shit to the curb. They'll embrace her or him, and Jim Scott's got the same kind of bedside manner. It's like an old school. We keep it light because that's when the cool shit happens.
Totally.
That's the best.
I did this session recently with Chris Scruggs and Rory Hoffman, and man, Chris was like that, man. He was just, it was great to work with him. He really, and Dennis Crouch on bass, man. He was just so awesome. Working with all those kind of guys, being in Nashville and starting to get a couple phone calls like that, which just feels so great,
Oh yeah, you better get ready.
Yeah, and it's like, you get a call and it's like, okay, I'm going to play on so and so's record, and then you get there, it's like, oh, Dennis and Chris Scruggs and Rory and Nate Leith. Holy shit, this is a band,
Yeah, it's a band.
Let's do it.
And yeah, it's like jump in and hang on, man.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome.
It's great talking to you, man. I can't wait to play some music or something whenever this stuff kind of lets up. You had a great point with the studios before the gigs actually thing. I mean, that's got me sort of inspired to get some music together, and so that way we can, at least, if we're not going to be gathering big groups of people, but maybe we can gather 10 people and stay away from each other and make a record.
That's right. I think that's a great plan, and it's definitely going to happen sooner. So, I'll kick ideas your way, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, man.
All right, I'm going to go howl for Sonoma, man.
Yeah. All right,
I love you,
man.
Billy. It's been great talking to you.
Love you too, Dave. Have a great night, man, and stay sane.
I will. You do the same, and thanks for the idea about calling friends. I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
you got a good thing going. Pay it forward.
Absolutely, man.
All right, well, tell Allie I said hey, and I'll see you soon.
All right. See you, Dave.
Bye.
There you have it. Dave Schools, everybody. Man, that was a great listen. There was something for just about everyone on this episode. Big thanks to Dave for picking up the phone and chatting with us today. Sounds like he's got plenty going on out there in California. We appreciate you, buddy. Tune in next time when Billy chats with Tim O'Brien. Curious to hear what Tim's been up to since March. Billy is too. I'm sure they'll have plenty to talk about. For now, take care of each other, take care of yourselves. We'll be back real soon. Bye now.
It's a cute